MTG Munster, your place for Commander games every Monday and Thursday. Goblin approved.
Hey gang, just to let you know, you can now use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, at flipsidegaming.com and originalmagicart.store. Using the code gets you 10% off orders $10 or more, and you get to help out the channel at the same time. Welcome back, my friends. Today finds us back at MagicFest New Jersey, or GP New Jersey if you prefer. Geo is back playing his mighty Merfolk deck with Tuvasa at the helm, keeping Botanical Sanctum, Plains, Hollowed Fountain, Thrasios Triton Hero, Kiora's Follower, Kopala Warden of Waves, and Rootwater Matriarch. New to the channel is Phil, who's playing the flickering and fate-stealing fiend Aminatou, keeping a Scalding Tarn, a Baleful Strix, a Bojuka Bog, Austere Command, Sun Titan, Godless Shrine, and Sensei's Divining Top. As the host with the most, I'm playing Krenko, and I keep 2 Snow-Covered Mountains, Goblin Recruiter, Myriad Landscape, Goblin Trashmaster, Pyroblast, and Treasonous Ogre. And last but not least, you can't keep a good dinosaur extinct with Alan playing his Etali deck, keeping a Mountain, Wildfire, Ancient Tomb, Possibility Storm, Magus of the Moon, Azor's Gateway, and Bogart and Hellkite. Phil wins the die roll and starts us off. Phil plays a Scalding Tarn and cracks it to take 1. He goes to find a Tundra, putting it to the field and using it to cast his top. I play a tap Myriad Landscape and I pass to Alan. Alan plays an Ancient Tomb, tapping it and taking 2 life loss to cast Azor's Gateway. Geo plays a tapped Hollowed Fountain and passes. Phil plays an Isolated Chapel and taps out to cast a Baleful Strix. He draws a card as it enters the battlefield and passes to me. I play a Snow-Covered Mountain and I cast Goblin Recruiter. I grab a Goblin Matron, Goblin Ringleader, Goblin Lackey, and a Goblin Warchief, putting them on top of my library with the Ringleader on top. Alan plays a Mountain and uses his Gateway, drawing a card and exiling Bogart and Hellkite. He then takes 2 to cast away Wayfarer's Bauble and passes to Geo. Geo plays a Botanical Sanctum, and out comes a Kiora's Follower before he passes to Phil. Phil casts Vampiric Tutor on his upkeep, taking 2 and tutoring for a card to draw for his turn. We then see a Sol Ring come down in Phil's main phase, and Phil then takes another 2 to play an untapped Hollowed Fountain. I draw for turn and play a Snow-Covered Mountain. I then cast a Skirk Prospector, and I pass to Alan. Alan plays another Mountain for his turn, and takes 2 from the Ancient Tomb once more to activate his Gateway. He exiles Possibility Storm to the Gateway, and using the 1 floating, taps out to cast Magus of the Moon. With the spell in the stack, Phil activates his top. He resolves it, and before passing priority back to Alan, I sacrifice a Recruiter to the Skirk Prospector to make 1 red mana, and tap my Mountain to crack my Myriad Landscape. I grab 2 Snow-Covered Mountains, and shuffle away my tutored Goblins sadly, and Alan passes to Geo. Geo plays a Plains and moves to combat, hitting Alan for 2 with the Follower. He then passes to Phil. Phil activates his top on his upkeep to help find an answer to the Magus who is currently killing his mana base. He can't, so he plays a Godless Shrine and passes to me. I play a Snow-Covered Mountain, and I cast Treasonous Ogre. I then take 12 life loss to make 4 red mana, and use it to cast Krenko before passing to Alan. Alan plays another Mountain, and activates his Gateway. He exiles a Mountain this time, and then pays to sacrifice his Bauble to go and find another basic Mountain. He then passes to Geo while searching. Geo draws for turn and moves to combat. He hits Alan once more for 2 with the Follower, and he passes to Phil. Once more, Phil activates his top on his upkeep to set up his draw. He draws for turn and plays a Mountain that looks an awful lot like Marsh Flats, passing to me. I draw for turn and pay 3 in my main phase to cast a Legion War Boss. Moving to combat, I get my Goblin token from the War Boss trigger and swing it at Geo for 1. I then pass to Alan. Alan draws and plays a Homeward Path. He taps the path to activate his Gateway, exiling a Fire Diamond to the trigger. He then resolves a Sol Ring, and with access to enough mana, he casts Etali. Alan then passes to Geo. Geo draws and is struggling with that Blood Moon. He has to discard at this point, and he passes to Phil. Phil uses his top once more, but still can't find a basic. He plays a Bojuka Bog Mountain and passes to me. At the end of turn, I activate and tap Krenko, making 4 Goblin tokens. I play an Isolated Watchtower as my land for turn, and pay 4 to cast a Goblin Trashmaster. I tap Krenko to make another 9 Goblin tokens, and sacrifice 5 of them to Skirk Prospector to cast Reforge the Soul. The spell resolves, and Phil is too happy about it, which makes me regret my decision. We pitch our hands and draw a fresh 7. I then sacrifice 2 more tokens and tap a land to cast 1000-year elixir, then activating the elixir to untap Krenko. Of course, I immediately re-tap Krenko, making another chunk of tokens. Moving to combat, I gain a token from the war boss, and swing 6 2/2 goblin tokens at Alan. Alan blocks 1 with his Magus, and 1 with Etali, taking 8. Alan draws for turn and casts Scroll Rack in his main phase. He activates it and sets aside 3 cards, drawing 3 off the top and putting the 3 aside on top. Moving to combat, Etali goes at Geo because the Baleful Strix and my army of tokens doesn't look great for Alan. Responding to the Etali trigger, Phil activates his top to hide away any potential good cards from the ability. We then reveal off the top, and Alan hits Emrakul the Promised End from his library, Goblin Chain Whirler from mine, a land from Phil, and Rootwater Shaman from Geo. The Chain Whirler then enters, dealing 1 to each of Alan's opponents and 1 damage to each of their creatures. Alan then resolves his Emrakul, opting to take my next turn, while Phil realizes his Baleful Strix should be dead. Geo then takes 6, and in Alan's second main phase he plays a mountain. He then activates the Gateway, and with the trigger on the stack, I sacrifice a Goblin token to the Trashmaster's ability to blow it up before it can transform. Alan still gets to draw a card, and exile a card though. He then casts an Inferno Titan, taking 2 more damage from the tomb, and deals 3 to kill my Trashmaster. I sacrifice a token to destroy the Scroll Rack with the ability on the stack, and with my Trashmaster dying, so do all of my tokens, as I still have the damage from the Chain Whirler on them. Geo draws and plays a Forest. He then taps his lands and untaps one of them with the Follower to help cast Hallowed Burial, putting all creatures to the bottom of their owner's library. Geo then passes, and at the end of turn, Phil activates his top. Phil draws and plays a Swamp for turn. He then casts a Mana Vault and a Karmic Guide. The guide brings back Phil's Sun Titan, who in turn brings back Phil's Scalding Tarn. Phil then cracks a Tarn and shortcuts, quickly casting a Spellseeker. He grabs an island and puts Cyclonic Rift to hand. He then passes to Alan's controlled version of my turn. I draw for turn and hand over my cards to Alan. He taps 4 lands to play a Dark Dweller Oracle and a Metallic Mimic, naming dinosaurs as the Mimic comes in. He then sacrifices both creatures to the Dweller's ability, exiling a Coat of Arms and a Beetleback Chief, which I can play until the end of turn, but Alan doesn't want to do that, so they're sadly lost to exile forever. He then skips my land drop for turn, and passes to me for my extra turn. I play Snow-Covered Mountain, and I cast a Ruby Medallion. I then pay 2 for Hordling Outburst, which is kind of what Alan was expecting. I then pass to Alan. Alan draws and plays a mountain. He asks for life totals, which is kind of terrifying coming from red deck, but he only recasts Etali. Alan then takes another 2 from the Ancient Tomb to help cast Felwar Stone, and he passes to Geo. Geo casts a Thought Vessel in his main phase, and immediately follows up with a Song of the Dryad. He enchants Etali, turning the dinosaur into a forest. He passes, and at the end of turn, Phil cracks his Marsh Flats to go and find a Plains, because Phil's not about to get blown out by another Blood Moon effect. Phil activates his top on his upkeep and lets his Karmic Guy die. He draws for turn and plays a High Market. We then see the lady herself hit the field, Aminatou, and Phil then sacrifices the Spellseeker to gain 1 life from High Market. Moving to combat, Phil swings at Alan with Sun Titan because forests don't make for great blockers. I respond to Sun Titan's return trigger by activating my Watchtower. I scry 1 and immediately bottom the card. I then reveal the top card to be a Goblin Jurgenist, and I leave it on top. Phil then brings back his Spellseeker, who goes to find him another spell. He grabs Mana Drain this time, putting it to his hand. The Sun Titan then connects, and Alan loses 6. In his second main phase, Phil then downticks Aminatou to flicker his Spellseeker, returning her and going to find another spell. Phil grabs a copy of Pact of Negation from his library and puts it to hand. Phil's not done with his library though, and he casts a Demonic Tutor before shuffling it up to tutor for a card, passing. For my turn, I play a Cavern of Souls, thankful that Alan didn't play it during his turn and named something crazy like Brushwag. I then cast the Goblin Churgeon, and I cast Krenko, passing to Alan. Alan untaps and draws for turn. He plays a Hanowar Battlements as his land for turn, and he passes to Geo. Geo draws and plays an Arid Missa, cracking it and going to find a Shockland. He shortcuts to cast a Tuvasa, which Phil is quick to counter with a Mana Drain. Never one to let a counterspell get him down, Geo then drops a copy of As Foretold onto his field and passes to Phil. At the end of turn, Phil uses his top. Phil starts his turn off and gains 3 colorless mana in his main phase from the delayed mana drain trigger. He plays a Sunken Ruins as land for turn, and down ticks Aminatou to flicker the Spellseeker. He grabs Reanimate and puts it to hand. Spellseeker is then once more sacrificed to the High Market for 1 life. But this time Geo meets the wrath of Sun Titan, who upon attacking brings back the Spellseeker once more. Phil goes and grabs Mystical Tutor this time, putting it to hand. He then casts the Tutor to go and find Bitter Ordeal and puts it on top of his library. Phil's enjoying tutoring so much, he casts Buried Alive to find 3 cards this time. He grabs Shroom, Phyrexian Metamorph, and Recruiter the Guard. He realizes a moment later that he meant to put the top on top of his library to draw the Bitter Ordeal, and because we're all friends at the table, we let it slide. Reanimate then brings back Shroom, who in turn brings back the Metamorph. Alan tries to disrupt the combo with a Searing Wind, dealing 10 damage to Shroom, but sadly Phil has that Pact of Negation from earlier to counter it. And Phil is then able to cycle between the two of them enough times that when he casts Bitter Ordeal, his Gravestorm count is so high it exiles all of our libraries except for his own. So, Alan and I did a pretty good job of messing with each other the entire game, and unfortunately I think that's what caused Phil, well that and the fact that he tutored like a million times in 2 turns, the way to win. I think early on, Alan, despite the fact that he was doing so much damage to himself with the Ancient Tomb, was still the primary threat. The Magus of the Moon effectively was able to keep Phil and Geo out of the game. Unfortunately, I probably should have swung my Goblin tokens earlier on at someone else as opposed to Alan, but as I said, he was the main threat and I was concerned that he was going to get away with a lot using Etali's trigger to steal some spells. I'm still unconvinced that the play I made where I used the Myriad Landscape to go and find 2 basics was a good move. Unfortunately, it caused me to lose the cards I'd tutored for, but I didn't have any other basics in my hand at the time, so being able to cast them probably wasn't going to happen. Unfortunately for Geo, between the bad draws and the Blood Moon type effect, he really wasn't in this game. The few times he was able to cast something, they were either too late or got countered. Phil definitely had the right game plan in mind, playing it cool and slowly building up his resources. It wasn't until it was too late, when he started to tutor for 2+ cards a turn, that things really got out of hand. He did have a sequencing error with the Sensei's Divining Top, but he was on camera, it was busy, it was hot, it was loud, anyone would have made the same mistake, so we were happy to let him do it. Plus, it was very obvious that that's what he was going for. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/mtgmudsta, and lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/mtgmudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.